Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. It is July 1st and it's Wednesday, and we have Jackie from the Alzheimer's Family Organization joining us today to tell us about her journey with some of the villagers here, what she does for the AFO, and what the AFO can do for the families here. So, Jackie, thanks for joining us today. I'm interested in hearing more about what you do and the journey you're on with families here and the support that you can provide for them. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. I'm excited to be here. As Lisa said, my name's Jackie Kuhn, and I live here in the Villages, and I am a community educator with the Alzheimer's Family Organization. I have been in long-term care. My background is being an administrator for 46 years. And when I came to the Villages to live, I just couldn't shut my mind off. I love working with seniors. And so getting this job of being a community educator allowed me to go around and do a lot of speaking and education regarding Alzheimer's and dementia. And that's my love. So a little bit about AFO. We get a lot of questions about, oh, what's the difference between AFO and the Alzheimer's Association? And I enjoy telling the differences because we have a lot of things in common, but yet we really both have distinct opportunities to serve our community. The Alzheimer's Association is international, and it has multiple employees and covers a vast part of our world. In fact, I was a member of them and when I lived in Indiana with my long-term care background, and received a lot of good education, a lot of good programs. But their main focus and what we really cherish is research. And so we know that research is inevitable and needs to be out there in order to solve this disease process from getting any worse. But the Alzheimer's Family Organization, the word family focuses on the caregiver. And we know that the caregiver's journey is one that is remembered. The loved one with the diagnosis does not remember this journey. And so we know that our job is to help support that caregiver, giving them insight as to what this journey is going to be like. The AFO provides, again, support groups. It provides encouragement, one-on-one consulting. We take every opportunity we can to help the caregiver. The one thing about the AFO is that we're a very small organization. We have and serve 8 counties. And my job as a community educator, I cover Sumter, part of Lady Lake, and Marion County. And again, we want to personalize what we can do for the caregivers. It's been very challenging, as you all know, during this time. But again, we are a not-for-profit organization. We strictly survive on fundraisers, donations by loved ones, and grants. And of course, our many fundraisers that we've had in the past has been our walk that we have at the polo field every year. That's our biggest fundraiser. We've had fundraisers such as the Bling Fling. We have other things that people do on a smaller scale as well to be able to help finance the AFO. So we only cover 8 counties. We only have 5 employees, so we're very small. Not like AA, the Alzheimer's Association, who is international. But it allows us to be that person who is only a phone call away to come to their door to assist them in any way possible. So there's a big difference between the 2 organizations, but yet so much in common, and both are much needed in our world today.
Thank you, Jackie. That's a great overview of what you do. Tell us about how this pandemic has changed how you're reaching families in need and the caregivers.
Well, this has been overwhelming for us who are in a normal situation. But for those as caregivers and their loved ones are still at home or even placed, this has just been undaunting. It's been such a challenge for them to be able to cope with the changes that have had to take place. A lot of my phone calls are from families who are struggling with trying to keep their loved ones occupied at home because they've always been out into a program that has allowed some socialization for them. And they're finding that them being not able to get out, they're seeing a lot of changes in behavior. They're seeing a lot of changes in the structure of their day because they just know, the loved ones with Alzheimer's just know something's not right, something's different, and it's not normal. And then we have the challenge of those who are in our assisted living facilities, the challenge of not seeing them. My phone calls are, I'm lonely, I'm depressed, what do I do? How do I get through this? And so we try to walk them through things that they can do to allow them to not dwell on the fact that they can't see their loved one. They don't know what's happening. And it's like that person has just automatically disappeared. And it's very hard for the caregiver. We know it's a challenge when their loved one is present with them, but this has been greater when you can't see what is happening around you. And the loved ones sit and caregivers sit and think about it and find themselves really discouraged and not being able to reach out to people. So that's something that we've been able to really try to do more of. I get phone calls daily. I'm making home visits. I'm just trying to keep them afloat because I can see it in their eyes and I can see it in their behaviors that this is just challenging.
It is challenging. I know for the caregivers, they really look forward to the respites or the day programs, even having those 2 or 3 hours of a respite time. So are you seeing a lot of caregivers really burning up with the day-to-day? Again, we're on unprecedented times where they don't have their family support, their neighbors support, but just, are you seeing more caregiver burnout? Are you very concerned with caregivers being burned out?
Yeah, I'm very concerned with our caregivers. Burnout isn't hard to come by. I mean, it doesn't take long for us to begin to realize, what do I do? I don't know. I don't have the tools before me. Before I had things in a pattern or in some structure to our day, and now I have nothing. It's like, you go to the doctor's office and only one of you can go in. What do I do with my loved one? I can't leave them in the lobby. I can't leave them in the car. I can't leave them at home by themselves. So they're challenged. We all have had to learn to think outside the box. It's unbelievable how creative we can become, but it's more daunting because the families can't participate. A family that I met with this week, you've got 5 kids and they're in 5 different states and they want to come and see the family. They want to help and be there and be that support, but they don't want to get on the airplane and come. Or the loved one, the caregiver says, I don't want you to come, because we don't want to take this chance because we're all vulnerable. So I know that the caregivers are struggling with trying to find a way to put their arms around this massive change in our life, and just as we are.
Right. And how are you helping families adjust to not being able to see their loved one in a community? If they've moved to a memory care and they're getting care there and they're wanting to see them, what tips are you giving them and kind of help processing this whole thing? How are you helping them to figure out what they can and can't do? And are you trying to put Zoom calls together or photo albums for people? What kind of suggestions are people doing on the outside to still stay connected to that loved one who's in a secure neighborhood?
Yeah. The calls that we get, our support groups, of course, all our support groups used to be in ALFs, churches, areas, and where now we cannot meet as a group. So we've created our communication conference calls. With many, we have Zoom support groups, and we try to encourage them to get on and to be able to try to continue that support system that they're so used to. The one thing that I think that when we're talking about our loved ones, caregivers outside the box of where the loved ones are because they're in a memory care facility as such, is to find that way of communication. You know, I strongly encourage contacting those facilities. What are they offering for this communication? What opportunities do we have to be able to see them? And so the families are challenged to say, you know, I go to see them, but I have a mask on, and so they don't know who I am, because our loved ones so often recognize us by our face, not just by our eyes. So they're not sure. The families are afraid their loved ones will forget who they are because they don't get that opportunity to see them. So one family member, you know, we may encourage to say, put a photo album together. Go down memory lane, mark in there, you know, make one or two of them, one for you and one for them, to be able to allow them to be able to visualize that on a daily basis. We encourage the fact that families put pictures in their rooms of them. We encourage families to do FaceTime, you know, Zoom with them. The facilities are working very closely with the fact that, you know, many of them are providing those things for them to be able to help them to visualize and see what is taking place. So, you know, we try to do it on a one-on-one basis. What are their needs? What do they really want to happen? But it's got to be a working relationship with the facility in which they're in to be able to help them get to see their loved one.
Yes, and I noticed that some of the communities are becoming more flexible, figuring out if they can have porch visits or mercy visits or even meals. I know even the people who are on hospice, they're kind of sneaking them in the back door so they can spend some quality time with them on a very limited basis. It is just unbelievable, the pain that people are in, not being able to see their loved ones. They have worry about what's happening with the care. Will they forget me? It is really difficult for families, and you know, families that live out of state, worrying about their mother, father who's caring for their spouse, and unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
And then even people who down here who have memory loss, right, who are doing okay, but suddenly they don't have the neighbors checking in on them at the rate that they used to. They're worried about, you know, ordering food, and are they eating the food? What about the medications? Are they taking the medications? You know, it's one thing to have mild dementia, but we've been at this for a while now. So are things changing? Are they eating? Are they sleeping? Are they taking their medications? Are they going to their teleconferences with the doctors? It's really difficult times, and we have a long way to go.
Well, and you know, and as we've talked before, you know, we know this isn't over. So, you know, we're talking about a second wave of what may happen, and trying to prepare our caregivers and loved ones as to how to better prepare for this. You know, because this is already what, 3 months plus, and not being able to see your loved ones. And some families have put cameras in their rooms so that they're able to visualize and see them on a daily basis, to be able to at least look at them. You know, one of the things our loved ones lose is recognizing faces, names, and voices. And so many times, you know, they only know us by our voice, because that's how they remember us. So it's important that, you know, we just have to think outside the box, be creative, you know, grocery shopping, the getting the supplies that we need, whatever is necessary. You know, we just have to reach out. We have to find a way to make it easier on us as a caregiver, because even though our loved one's placed somewhere, the caregiver still is sitting home concerned and worried and struggling with not being able to touch, not being able to hug, to be able to leave with that kiss on the cheek, just to know that they're okay. And so our facilities are working very hard to, I think, try to offer that comfort, to be able to give the caregiver some feel of security that their loved one is being cared for. And so we just have to reach out, and I encourage our caregivers to reach out. If you don't know what to do, ask somebody, what's the best way I can communicate? What's the best way I can feel good about this? And you're right, many of them have given, a few inches as to letting our families in, particularly at that time of passing, where the loved ones want to be there, and they've been very gracious to allow their doors to be open during those times. And so, sometimes it's just one of those things that we have to do what we have to do, and we have to find a way to cope with it.
Yes, it's really unbelievable times. So can you talk a little bit about how the AFO is kind of preparing people for this long journey, right? As you mentioned, the second wave, or now the second hump of, we may be pulling back even more in coming days in Florida. How is the AFO helping people to kind of prepare for the long journey, right? Because it's not going to be short, it's going to be long. So I know you mentioned before getting on calls, conference calls with your support group. When people are needing just one-on-one, are they calling you, and do you have a team that could meet with them? How are they doing? What are you going forward? What are you looking at for support for people?
Well, we've been creating and updating our resource list as far as opportunities for families to be able to know what are their, where could they go for certain services. And I think, is really pushing the conference calls. We do a lot of conference calls because a lot of the families don't know how to maneuver Zoom, or they don't have the computer skills, or maybe they don't even have a computer. So, my mom and dad don't even own a computer, so it's very challenging to do anything but have a phone conversation with them. So, our Zoom calls, sometimes they want to just be able to see other faces from the people that they have met with for years, and to be able to know they're okay. I mean, we have a lot of caregivers worried about caregivers. They'll say, well, have you heard from so-and-so, and how are they doing, and how are they coping with this? And so, they continue to be a family, and they continue to support each other, and they continue to mourn with each other when one of them has a loss. So, we're trying to bump up those type of communications. We have really probably increased our personal phone calls to me to be able to help them. I met with a family last week that I'm going to be doing a weekly visit or call with them for a while, because they're just now beginning this journey, and it's a struggle with them, along with the viral things going on, but it's a struggle now that they can't get out and do. So we've really pumped up the home visits and being able to offer them opportunities outside of even the AFO, being able to give them other resources, places of home health agencies, or opportunities where they can go to get the full quality of suggestions and care, to provide information that maybe they're just needing. We try to help them to know from day to day, what can I do? We've always encouraged journaling and trying to keep tabs on how and every day is going for them. But this is kind of undaunting with the virus, to be able to, things have changed so much that journaling is helpful. But right now it's more with the struggles of what they're going through, to be able to document, saying, this is, my feelings for today, this is what's happening. But we're really pumping up those. We have our newsletter, but we've been unable to get that out there because a lot of publications are being taken out of their places of where they might get this resource. You can call us, we can mail you one, to be able to allow you to continue to see that. So any literature, anything that somebody may need. Somebody called the other day and needed some information on Lewy bodies. And so, we gathered up some information and mailed that off to them. So we, as everybody else, are having to think outside the box the way we have done things. We've had fundraisers on Zoom, YouTube, other opportunities to see what we can do to keep our doors afloat. But we also know that, our families appreciate the one-on-one. They appreciate the personal connection and contact. And so, we've had to make a lot of changes as well in our publications and in our educators and as our organization to be able to meet the needs. It's not us just giving a overview of things, but it's doing a lot more of that one-on-one.
I can imagine it's really hard. They need a lot of guidance. A lot of times when I'm talking with family, I'm talking with them about getting a plan, right? So medically, financially, emotionally, you're the emotional part, right? Just making sure you have the support group. But then medically, right? Who are your doctors? Do you need a neurologist? What does the neurologist say? Do you need specialists? And then financially, right? And then legally, making sure that you've got all the legal documents. What happens if something happens to you and your loved one who has memory loss is now not navigating for you? Who could that be? And then financially, if in fact you needed emergency placement because taking care of them at home just didn't work or you needed a respite, where would you get the finances for a short-term or a long-term stay for them? So I'm always talking to families about getting their ducks in a row, even when they're beginning their journey with a cognitive impairment. It's really important to just know where your resources are in the area. So if, Jackie, somebody wanted to get in touch with you and they were just at the very beginning of their journey, or an adult child was calling from out of the area and was just kind of curious, just wanted to know what resources they could get in place for mom, how would they go about getting in contact with you?
Well, they could contact our home office, but we would probably, if they're in my area, particularly when, like I say, Sumter, Marion, and part of Lady Lake County, that I would ask them just call me directly.
Okay.
Because it gives me an opportunity to be able to get a better picture of what their needs are. If we were in normal times, I always say you got to have a plan B. And I said your plan B needs to be worked now while you're living in plan A, because it gives you an opportunity to make that judgment call or to make that decision without the emotional tie to having to make that decision. And I will give them, resources to be able to know who they can contact that has the whole package, that, that is able to give them just some good counseling. I can counsel the emotional needs, but, I like for them to know there's somebody as yourself to be out there counseling the finances, the legal issues, the things that so many times they struggle with. And so, I just want to be able to give them the best tools that I can give them. And then they have to make that decision. I'll give them, options of different agencies to be able to make their choices. And I think that's important to pick which one is best for them, which one meets their needs. And so I'd rather have them call me personally, because I'd rather be personally involved to be able to help them make that decision, give them the contact numbers, and then I know I've given them the tools in which they need to do, and then they go from there. And I always say, call me back if you got questions after talking with these loved ones and individuals, because I said so many times, maybe they're not quite sure about something, and maybe the reputation of someone. And so I feel it's important that I'm able to give them that good feedback. And for the children as well, lots of times it's the family making those decisions, or at least trying to, the roles get reversed here periodically, and all of a sudden the kids are in charge and mom and dad are having to take direction. So we know that that's not an easy task either, but Yeah, I'm open to, my problem is I like to talk. So it's always a great opportunity for us to be able to visit and earn that trust, earn that comfort zone. Because sometimes I say, if all you got to do is cry, just call me. I'm a good listener. So I think it's important that, they know that we're here for them.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being there for families. What positives do you think are coming out of this that people are, now more aware of that they weren't before? What positive messaging is out there that, this has been hard on everybody? What positives have come out of this process that we're in right now?
Well, I think everybody can agree it's created better communication.
Mhm.
It has created opportunities for families to be stronger because they've had to rely on each other. It's created a better understanding of our love for family, our need for our faith, our need for our friends, to be able to stay in touch. I have to laugh. My mom and dad are 90 and 91, and they both still work, and so they have really been bored through this process. So my dad has called every cousin and every member of our family all over the United States just to keep busy, but it's allowed them the opportunity to make connections. And I think that's, if we receive anything out of this, it's important to know that, family is important. Friends are important. Our faith is important. Having our ducks in a row is very important. So it's been a challenge for everything. We've all learned new ways to do things. Some are being more practical than what they have, and you stop and think, why didn't I do that before? I think it's taught us all better skills as far as washing our hands, keeping our home sanitized. And I think so, it's opened up a lot of things. I could probably name more things that it has done than positives, to the point that, it kind of becomes overwhelming. Like gaining the 15 pandemic pounds as we're all at home.
I had to get a puppy to save my sanity. So
That
now I'm
pets
walking, right? I've got a
Pets
puppy.
are fantastic. I mean, if they don't have one, that's a good tool to go to, but it's always a difficult time to start training a puppy. But yeah, so many of them that have dogs have really appreciated the fact of the companionship that they offer.
That's totally it, right? So, Jackie, you mentioned before that you have some fundraisers. So if people want to donate to your organization, if they want to help out, if they want to be a part of what you do, tell us, how do they get involved with that? And where do they go for information on upcoming fundraisers or these virtual fundraisers that you're doing?
You can contact our home office in Spring Hill. And I think we'll be putting that number up there. But the phone number is 352-616-0170. And you can let them know if you have an opportunity for a fundraiser. We'll be trying to do more virtual fundraisers as we go along. They'll be on our website. And so we encourage participation. I think that, again, thinking outside the box, we're trying to do more activities that are interactive through Zoom and through other programs, YouTube and such. But you can also, we've had a lot of people just give a family donation, one that just says thank you. And $5 to $1,000, people have just been overly generous and good about wanting to support the AFO. And we know that many times people will, again, back to the beginning, get us confused with the Alzheimer's Association and thinking they gave a donation to the AFO, but realize that, again, we're two different entities. and the support of any kind of donation is so greatly appreciated. And the one thing about the AFO, our donations that are given to us stay in that county. They stay in that area. So if a family member sends us $100, it's not going to our Hernandez campus or, our Hernandez County, or Citrus County. It's staying right here in the Sumter County. And I think that's the beauty of what the AFO does provide, and how they utilize those donations is strictly for those that are presenting the donation. So, there are many ways to donate. And so, just call the office. You can call me. I had a family the other day mail me a card and a check. And so I just deposited it here into our account to know that that money is going for our services. And it goes to providing literature, information to our families that are just needing a good read at this time, to better understand this process and the journey that they're going down.
Thank you for that, Jackie. Thanks for everything that you do to support all of us.
Oh, you're
It's been
welcome.
an amazing journey working with you and raising money for your organization. I know so many families have been going to New Covenant. They've been going to the support groups that you've provided in the assisted livings. They've been going to your seminars that you've been giving and, getting your ducks in a row. We appreciate everything that you've done for all of us, because it isn't an easy journey, and I know you're there to educate people, know what their resources are, and to be a support in this really difficult time for families. So thanks for everything you do. You've got a really big heart.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Lisa and Maureen and everybody, Bonnie, and everything that you guys do with your organization. I tell you, years ago, we didn't have these kind of opportunities. And I'm so glad they're out there today for our families, because it is a journey that was unexpected. It wasn't a journey that's planned into our goals and our life as we retire here in the village area. So we know that our families are struggling with this. And we also know, because the caregiver's life can be cut short as a caregiver. 60% of caregivers get ill or pass away before their loved ones. So we know how hard this job is on our caregivers. And so I'm just very proud and thankful that the Lord's given me the opportunity to be a part of serving these seniors and to help them through this journey.
Yep, you're a great resource. So thanks for everything you do. So we see your number on the screen. We see your number, we see your email. So if anybody needs to get in touch with you, wants to donate, wants to know about upcoming fundraisers, certainly reach out to Jackie. She's a wonderful resource. And hopefully people will share it with other people as they realize that their neighbor, their loved one, their friends may have this journey and don't even know what resources are out there. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yep. And my
Be
contact
safe.
information is right here. So if anybody has any questions, again, a lot of people don't know that even long-term care insurance can be used for in-home services for someone with cognitive impairment. And cognitive impairment on long-term care insurance activates that policy. So people just need to know, again, sometimes they're waiting until they're much further along in their journey. But again, it can be used for in-home care 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 1 afternoon a week. And it's good to, again, get support, know that you have a designated time in which you could step away from your loved one. There are respite programs. So if somebody had to have surgery, right, or somebody needed to travel to see an adult child out of state and they needed their loved one to have placement for a week, there are facilities in the area that would take someone for a respite stay. Or if you just need, designated time that a companion could come in. There's also, again, people from the church that do volunteer work, and we can get them hooked up with just someone at no charge that could come in. And or if we need, again, to support them on meals, right? Sometimes the caregivers are just exhausted and can't make meals, or they need their groceries delivered, or they need perhaps a neurologist suggestion. So I'm here as a resource for families. I help them find independent assisted or memory care communities, but also resources like you, Jackie, or TLC, when people just need someone to talk to about the emotions of going through the caregiving, or adult children who maybe feel guilt. You know, they've been caring for their loved one in their home for years, and now they're thinking it's getting too much. It's wearing on my relationship with my spouse, or I need to make a change because it's just much harder than I thought. So again, I'm here as a free service to people if they just want to call and ask questions. And I enjoy our partnership, and I'm looking forward to raising money for you again with the
I
bling
know.
bling. I can't wait. There's so many wonderful things. In fact, I got a call yesterday and went picked up more jewelry, more bags, more scarves, more things for the bling fling. So hopefully we'll be doing that soon and raise some money for you so that you can continue to support families.
Well, we appreciate it all. Somebody said, why don't you do a Zoom show? And I said, can you imagine with all that jewelry trying to do a Zoom show? But yeah, we so appreciate it. And that's such a fun time.
Yeah, it is. So I'm looking forward to seeing you. Stay
You
safe.
too.
Continue
You
on what you
too.
do, okay? And be safe, all right?
Thank you. Air hug.
All right, virtual hug. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.